Welcome to the 12th episode of Friends and Film, a podcast where we talk about the latest movie news and theatrical releases. I'm your host, Cooper Hood, at Coops_Hoops on Twitter, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Josh Straley, at StraleyStrong on Twitter. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at Friends and Film, and you can find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, or YouTube by simply searching Friends and Film. Josh, what's going on?
Not a whole lot today, Cooper.
No? Nothing?
No, not really. I mean,
Haven't been up to anything exciting?
well, I can tell you what I didn't do this weekend
Yeah?
was go see Midnight Special.
Yeah, very disappointed in that.
We said last week, we put it up to the vote, what we were going to see and review, and turns out that Midnight Special is not being released anywhere near here.
No, we got 5 theater releases, so it's probably like 3 in LA and 2 in New York or something.
Of course.
So being in good old Indiana, can't really do anything about it. And we could have gone to our second option and gone Allegiant, but neither of us had any desire to go and see and probably suffer through that movie. So instead we're going to give you guys a review of Man of Steel, a preview in sorts, but right before Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice next week. Decided, let's just take it back to the very beginning of the DC extended universe. I can't remember if it's extended or expanded. It's the DCEU. That's the abbreviation for it, I guess. So yeah, we're going to do a Man of Steel review today, throwing it all the way back to 2013. But I spent my weekend, I spent all day yesterday binge watching Daredevil Season 2.
Oh, was that any good?
Oh man, it was so good.
I just about started it. I watched the opening scene of the first episode, and then I was like, I gotta get going on some homework.
Yeah, it's really good.
How's John Bertha?
Bernthal?
Yeah.
Bernthal is excellent as a Punisher. Hopefully he gets his own spin-off series in the future. We'll have to wait and see. I'm not that confident that it'll happen just because Netflix and Marvel have this long contract of stuff they have to get out in a certain amount of time. But who knows? Hopefully it'll happen. And unfortunately, this is not a Marvel MCU podcast, so we can, I could talk all day about season 2, but
maybe we'll have to get a spin-off or something like that sometime soon.
Maybe do 2 podcasts at once. Have to quit going to school, quit a job, podcast full time. But as I mentioned before, we're going to do a Man of Steel review today. But before we do so, me and Josh are going to talk about the biggest movie news that broke throughout the week. If you want to go straight to our review, just fast forward about halfway through the episode, or if you are watching on YouTube, there should be a pop-up on your screen right now that you can just skip right ahead. But you should probably stick around for the news because there's some pretty big stuff that broke this week. And we're going to kick it off by talking about a couple of Harrison Ford franchises. The one in particular is his franchise, and Disney and Lucasfilm announced earlier in the week that Indiana Jones 5 is actually officially happening. Steven Spielberg's returning to direct. Harrison Ford's going to come back in some capacity. I don't really know how. But the movie is slated for a July 19th, 2019 release date. And then following that report, THR reported that David Cope is returning to the movie to write, as he's previously done a couple other Spielberg projects, including the last Indiana Jones movie, Indiana Jones Crystal Skull, which is definitely the worst of the franchise. But he has a couple other decent credits to his name. But Josh, are you excited for Indy 5?
I'm excited for Indy 5. I'm so happy that they actually have a Harrison Ford and they got Steven Spielberg to direct it. That is awesome. What I didn't find as exciting is that David Cope is coming back to write the script. Now, don't get me wrong, Indiana Jones 4 is the worst out of all of them, but it had a lot of good parts to it. I just don't know if the fan reception to someone trying to carry over the legacy of the next Indiana Jones movie is going to be received well.
I mean, I haven't seen that big of a backlash, but it's definitely not, the best choice maybe they could have gotten. But who knows? I mean, it could be a great thing. I mean, I know a lot of people, the last Indiana Jones movie was heavily influenced by George Lucas because he had a lot of say in, what that movie, why that movie was made and what the story was. So he gets a lot of the blame for that movie. But I found it funny that they announced this a couple of days after I bought the full Indiana Jones movies on Blu-ray. It was like 2 days later. It was like, bam, Indiana Jones 5. I was like, gonna have to. Yeah. I got the box set for the first 4, thinking it's probably it, and then a couple days later they drop it. So,
of course.
Oh well.
That's how it goes, though. You buy the Star Wars Blu-ray saga, and like, all right, finally the complete collection, and then Episode 7 announced not 6 months after. And it's like that's exactly what happens. And
then you'll be able to watch it at home in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, I guess you made a really good point, Since Lucas is gone, and his desire to take things in very different directions, with movies, is going to be gone. So hopefully David Cope can fix all the things that was wrong with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Because he's gonna have to write out, like, what about Shia LaBeouf? Is Shia LaBeouf coming back? Because that's Indy's son, and like, how do you just cut him out?
Yeah, I don't know yet.
Be super interesting.
But I mean, to Cope's credit, he did write the screenplay for the first Spider-Man movie in the Sam Raimi trilogy, which is a very good Spider-Man movie, and he also wrote the first Mission Impossible movie. Oh. So he has 2 hits, and then Crystal Skull's not. That was kind of a miss, and then he also did Lost World, Jurassic Park. A possible miss there.
Oh no!
No, it's a hit.
Oh yeah, those were all hits. I mean, I haven't seen the trilogy that you talked about. What was that?
The trilogy, Spider-Man trilogy.
He wrote all of them?
No, he wrote the first one. I was saying he wrote the first in the trilogy. Yeah.
All right, got it. Okay, yeah, that's arguably the best Spider-Man movie out there. So, it's a franchise I love. I'm judging him off of what he did last time. So, hopefully, with all of the new creative energy in Disney right now, something awesome will happen.
Yeah, well, if you want to judge him off what he did most recently, I'm thinking of something we'll get to later, but you allude to something earlier about Shia LaBeouf. He's probably not coming back, but since Harrison Ford is, do you think it's going to be, there's some speculation online that it's going to be kind of a flashback story type thing where it's Harrison Ford in present day doing one thing, but then he's kind of referencing a story that happened way back when, and then they recast the role younger. Would you want to see that, or do you want to see a continuation of the franchise where they go from, they go from Crystal Skull to Indy 5?
I like that idea of what you just said. That's a great way to have Harrison Ford in a role that doesn't seem out of sorts for him, because he's he's in his 70s now. And then if they could do a flashback to where it's actually a whole lot more believable for him to be narrating a story of his youth.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Then they'll have to recast the classic Indiana Jones character, which is nothing new for Harrison Ford, as Disney is currently trying to find a new current Han Solo, a younger version for their Han Solo anthology movie. It's coming on 2018. There's been rumors that he is appearing in Rogue One, and it's a cameo. Don't know if that's happening, but there was a report out this week by The Hollywood Reporter where they revealed what they had heard was the top 3 names for the role, and that was Alden Heinrich, Jack Rayner, and Taron Egerton. But then Variety also chimed in and said that Blake Jenner and Jack O'Connell are both still up for the role, as well as there's a couple other unknowns that Disney's keeping under wraps. Personally, I think Egerton's probably my favorite of the group. But I think it was the week after Hail Caesar came out, there was a rumor circulating online that Heinrich and Edgerton had tested for the role together, but then people kind of dismissed it because it was from an unreliable source. And then to have this come out, it's like, oh, so there was some credibility to that rumor probably. Which one of these actors stands out to you, though?
I totally see Heinrich as Han Solo.
Mm-hmm.
Originally, I was pulling for Miles Teller to get cast.
He confirmed he has auditioned.
Yeah, and I did find out that he wasn't on that top 3 list. I was kind of shocked because he seemed like the most Han Solo out of all of them. Maybe in appearance or in style of acting and personality. But I would pull for Heinrich, but definitely getting Taron Egerton, who's been killing it in his last 2 roles. I would not be turned off by that pick.
No. Yeah, I'd be definitely okay with both of them. Jack Rayner, I'm not that familiar with. I'm mostly familiar with him from Transformers 4.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, whatever you say about that movie, I mean, he's not the bad part about it, really. And then Blake Jenner, I'm not familiar with. But Jack O'Connell, I'm a big fan of what he did in Unbroken. And then he's got a movie coming out with George Clooney later this year that looks pretty interesting. And he was somebody that was up for Spider-Man, and I was kind of rooting for that to happen. So if Jack O'Connell's to get out, he doesn't really embody the Han Solo character to me, but if he did get it, I could see him pulling it off.
I'm not too much familiar with Jack O'Connell, but I think that whoever they pick, it's going to be someone that has the ability to get into character for Harrison, or for the Han Solo Harrison Ford's guy. Is that your biggest? Well, I'm sorry. Or you're pulling for Taron Egerton, right? I mean, is that your guy?
Egerton's my guy. Now, are you buying into the thought that either whoever they cast as Han Solo could also be cast as a young Indy if they did go the flashback route? Or do you think it's possible that while they're doing these tests, they think, okay, Egerton is killing it as Solo, but maybe Rayner, like, he kind of has more of that Indy like thing going on, and that they pull from this group or like these tests that they've been doing for Solo and say, if we do go this flashback route, like, let's grab this guy.
Oh, I mean, I would think that's in the discussion, wouldn't you? Especially that we get this news at the same time we get this news.
Yeah.
I find it's either coincidental or it's sort of, intended.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing about Egerton, though, if they did want to do if you're cast as Solo, you're also seemingly cast as the young Indiana Jones, I think that could potentially take Egerton out of it, at least in that aspect of playing both roles, because he does have the Kingsman franchise that he's doing. The sequel comes out next year, and there was we reported and talked about last week that Halle Berry was possibly signed up for 2 movies, so they're obviously planning a trilogy for that franchise. So he might not be somebody that has all the time in the world to do Star Wars, Kingsman, and Indiana Jones. That's a lot to ask of an actor.
Oh, definitely. Especially if the young Han Solo's movie goes really well, it would be hard to imagine them not wanting to return for another one.
Yeah, I completely agree that they would, as long as it does well at the box office and people, receive it well, and they're like, okay, sure, it's not Harrison Ford, but whoever they cast, people accept that he is Han Solo from here on out, then I think they'll definitely do a trilogy of Han Solo movies, which kind of brings into question of when these movies take place, because if they take place like a year before A New Hope, then there's not that much time between that and New Hope to tell new Solo stories. So then you just bring in question, do you tell a story between 6 and 7, or I don't know.
Yeah, the casting list did signal something to me that this wasn't going to be a 22 or 21, 22 Jump Street-esque movie. To see that most of these guys have pretty serious backgrounds with a little bit of comedy in them, kind of takes away that feel of the movie, I thought, too.
Yeah, maybe a little. I think both, especially Heinrich and Edgerton, both have comedic moments. And I've only seen Heinrich in Hail Caesar, but he definitely has a lot of comedic moments in that movie. And Edgerton has the same in both Eddie the Eagle and Kingsman. So I think they kind of play along that same line of Kingsman, where it's an action movie, but there's definitely comedic moments to the Young Han Solo movie.
Well, it's just cool to finally start getting faces on these guys.
Yeah, definitely. And we got some more looks throughout the week at a bunch of new movies coming out this year. We got, trailers are released all the time. We're going to briefly talk about 5 of them and, what capacity each one. I have no idea. It's kind of, we'll see how the conversation takes us. But the trailers we want to talk about we got our first look at Sausage Party, and then second trailers for Central Intelligence, Now You See Me 2, X-Men Apocalypse, and The Legend of Tarzan. Which one of these stood out to you the most, Josh?
Stood out the most was definitely Sausage Party, because I didn't know what I was clicking into when I saw a bunch of hamburgers and hot dogs and food with eyes and smiley faces on them. And then to see it go the route it did, it looked like another Pixar-esque movie. And then all of a sudden, things go wrong because, like, obviously it's food, so they're going to get eaten by people not cherished and adored like toys are. And once the food realizes that, swearing breaks out. Everyone starts running for the hills. And, oh, man, it just was hilarious.
Yeah, I like how you kind of mentioned they're not toys, because I definitely, at the very beginning, you get a Toy Story kind of vibe, which is kind of all, happy, and everybody's like, oh, yeah, we got chosen to go home. Like, we're leaving the store. This is great. Can't wait to see what happens next. And then, like, as a viewer, you're like, oh, this is not going to end well for them. Like, there's no way. And then you get the potato, and he's like, I was chosen first. And he's like, I kind of got the vibe of, like, the green aliens and the claw from Toy Story. It's like, the claw.
Yeah.
It's like, we have been chosen. And it's just like, the potato's all happy that he's moving on. And then they take the skin peeler, just slice him up, and then he just screams, and then there's F-bombs being dropped left and right by all the rest of the food. And then they start eating the baby carrots, and then they're eating children, which is just, it's so funny. And I mean, I was kind of interested in this movie just because of the voice cast involved. There was so many, and then, kind of the concept of it, I thought seemed funny, and the title in and of itself is kind of a play on words. And then you start off the trailer, you're like, oh, this is so happy, and then it just turns into like a horror movie kind of.
Yes,
and it's just great.
It's just like it's taking a punch at like Disney and DreamWorks, like, for taking those, like, oh, they're so unique and taking these everyday things and making you feel things for them. And this is like the same thing. Yeah,
but it's a totally different audience.
Yeah, and like you said, the voice acting is phenomenal. There's Kristen Wiig, Seth Rogen, Paul Rudd, Jonah Hill, James Franco, Bill Hader, and then Craig Robertson. Yeah. Daryl from The Office.
Edward Norton's in it. Salma Hayek. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on.
It just looks like it's going to be a fun film, I think.
I'm very much looking forward to it. I was before, and then after this trailer, I was like, I'm sold. I will definitely be seeing this in theaters. Any other ones? Central Intelligence. Did you like that one?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think Dwayne Johnson is at his best in film when he is playing alongside of somebody that is comedic, like Kevin Hart. Those two together, and then the overall premise of the film, Dwayne Johnson being like a super fat kid in high school, which is a hilarious scene in and of itself in the trailer. And then, butting up with Kevin Hart to go take down surveillance systems in the U.S. or whatever the case is.
I'm sure the plot's probably gonna be kind of thin, but I think it'll be pretty. I think it would be funny.
Yeah.
Whenever it does come out. Now You See Me Too. Are you a fan of the first one? First off.
Yes, and I love the second one coming.
You love the trailer?
Mm-hmm.
I was not a fan. I don't know why. I was a fan of the first trailer that came out, and then seeing this one, I was like, oh, this is just not doing anything for me.
Why not? Because it looks like it's more of the same, or
because I think it seemed too different. Because like the first one, it's all kind of like practical magic, and like it's kind of more like an Ocean's 11 type movie with magic, where they're doing these stunts. But then this one, it's like they're introduced like real magic, because like they go down that chute off the side of a building and they end up in China, and they're all confused, and it's like I just don't know what the plot is really. I don't know how Morgan Freeman's involved, and I guess he gets out of jail from the looks of the trailers.
Looks like he's being like a kingpin inside jail. Yeah, he's orchestrating.
So I don't know. It just didn't do. It lowered my excitement for it.
So you would have been like, oh man, that really disappoints me.
I was disappointed.
Daniel Radcliffe's in this now, and he looks like he's got like a fantastic role too. He actually looks like the main villain.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not sold. And I think, I like what's her name, Lizzie Chaplin.
Lizzie Kaplan.
I think it is Kaplan. I like her. I just saw The Night Before a couple weeks ago, and she's in that and really funny. So I'm interested to see how they explain her joining the team in the absence of what's her name? The redhead.
Her name's Lula from the movie. I can't think of the actress's name. I'm so sorry. But I know what you mean. They didn't even do a recast. They actually went ahead and changed the entire character. So not only do they have to explain how this new person joined the team, they're going to have to I don't know. There's a little bit of some writing I guess they have to fix, but I don't think it's going to be, impossible to make a good story out of it.
It's Isla Fisher. That's who it was.
There we go.
And I really liked her in the first movie, so hopefully they figure it out. X-Men Apocalypse. Did you like that one?
All right. Yes, I liked it more than I liked all the other trailers, because it actually gave me a look at what this is actually about. Other than the apocalypse is coming, run from something. I don't know what it was. I actually got to see what they're running from.
Mm-hmm.
How about you? I mean, I know you're more into X-Men than I am, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. Like this marketing for this movie has not. I'm excited for this movie just because it is an X-Men movie, but I've not seen anything in the trailers that's kind of like sold me. Like both, like Deadpool had its wow moments in their trailers. Batman v Superman, this latest trailer, the Batman fight at the very beginning, I was blown away by that. The Civil War trailers, I've just been so excited when I see those trailers, and then these trailers don't do anything really. They're not making me more excited. I was happy to see more of Apocalypse, but they're also like I'm kind of confused because like it looks like Oscar Isaac as a character is not the same. Like it looks like Apocalypse is kind of like a reincarnated being, or like it's like a persona or something. I don't know. Looks like there's like a body transfer, a mind transfer that takes place in the trailer. And then I'd always kind of thought, especially given her comments, that Jennifer Lawrence and Mystique that she would die in the movie, but I don't think that's the case anymore. Even though the final shot of the trailer is Apocalypse choking her, and definitely kind of leads that on. I was listening to my favorite podcast, Total Geek All, associated with ScreenRant.com. It's a great site, great podcast. You guys should listen to them. But don't stop listening to us.
Yeah. Go there after.
Yeah. And they were talking about it, and they mentioned that about halfway through the trailer, Jennifer Lawrence is wearing a completely different X-Men uniform than the rest than that she's wearing in the final battle with Apocalypse. So I don't think she dies, and I think she actually ends up staying with the X-Men, becomes kind of like a mentor.
So, man, I guess I have to give you major props because you are staying with the franchise so much better than I am. I got around to actually watching Days of Future Past about 2 weeks ago. And at the end of it, it didn't make it. I mean, it made sense how they wrapped everything up, but now the future is going to be the same or it's different again.
Yeah.
And
the timelines are definitely confusing.
I don't know where this movie fits in the grand scheme of things. It's awesome seeing Marvel put movies in chronological order or around the same time frame. DC's good to start to do that now, and this is just, I see it all happening, and I'm like, okay, well, the world's getting blown to smithereens. Are they going to do like a time reset on this thing too, or
yeah?
X-Men
That's
movie?
what I just don't know. Like basically, because it's funny, I got the latest Wolverine movie, like the Wolverine DVD for my birthday, and I was like, okay, like I've only seen this one time in theaters and it's okay, but I have no really desire to rewatch it because like basically the only things that are canon anymore are First Class and then the past day stuff with Wolverine in Days of Future Past. Anything happens in the future doesn't happen, and then the ending, like the happy ending where everybody's alive, apparently that's not even real, I guess, according to, I can't remember who it was, Bryan Singer or Simon Kinberg or whoever.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm looking forward to it, but I was really excited for Days of Future Past going in. This one I'm just like, all right.
Yeah.
I guess I gotta go see another X-Men movie.
The trailer's got some sweet scenes, like you just mentioned. Like Oscar Isaac, there's a little bit of confusion with his character, but he's being evil, and like it's hard to think that, oh man, that was Poe Dameron 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And now he's like, he's destroying the entire planet. And then Olivia Munn and Sophia Turner, I thought, had some really good moments in there too, at least for acting and looking totally badass. So
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the cast is all great, but I just don't know what the movie is really about. And then when they do beat Apocalypse, I don't know where you go from there.
Right.
What about Legend of Tarzan? Did you like that one? Just very quickly.
Yeah, I thought it was all right. I didn't think it was anything spectacular. I didn't even catch the actor's name who's playing Tarzan.
It's Alexander Skarsgård.
Okay. I've never heard of him, but I mean, it's all Margot Robbie was in it,
Yeah.
Samuel L. Jackson. So yeah, I'm going to give it a shot.
Yeah. I mean, I think the kind of similar to like the trailers for Amazing Spider-Man, like the web slinging and him like swinging on his web and stuff, and then seeing Tarzan swinging through the vines and the jungle. I think that can be really cool if they execute it correctly. But like I was kind of mentioning to you before we started rolling, I kind of feel like I know the whole plot of the movie based off this trailer. But I'm still gonna give it a shot. Looking forward to what's in store. Then we're gonna do We have a couple very short updates on the DC franchise and their expanded or extended universe. I should really figure out what the E stands for in the DCEU.
DC's quest to be like the MCU.
Yeah. Where the Lobo movie, it's apparently been in the works for a very long time, got a writer this week as Jason Fuchs has joined the movie following his work on the Wonder Woman script. Apparently Warner Brothers and DC are very happy with him because he's going to continue working in their franchise and their universe by doing the Lobo screenplay. That was reported by the Wrap, and then I just found this out today from you that Brad Payton, who did San Andreas, has been attached to direct for a while. So that's a really interesting pairing. What did you think about this?
Cool, but first of all, who the heck is Lobo?
Lobo. He is a bounty hunter. Basically, some of his powers, super strength, invulnerability. He has super quick speed. His healing abilities. He's great in hand-to-hand combat, marksman. He's just kind of like every other DC character. He's very overpowering.
So is he getting his own movie?
I guess, yeah. They haven't announced a date for it or anything. They have nobody cast as Lobo. But I guess it's kind of one of those things where they liked the Wonder Woman script that Fuchs did, and like, okay, this Lobo movie's been in development for a while. Why don't you give it a shot? And maybe in 2020 or after Justice League Part 2 and Green Lantern and stuff, they'll roll out some of these other more obscure movies, I guess.
Yeah, I just don't get the. I guess that it's awesome. It's good to see that they picked a writer from Jason Fuchs.
Sure.
From Wonder Woman because they liked his script. I mean, if they didn't, why would they grab him back?
Yeah.
So that's a good sign for Wonder Woman. But what's the intention with this Lobo movie? Is he funny? Is this like a Deadpool attempt?
Yeah, I think it's a Deadpool kind of attempt thing. So I don't know. I don't really know much about Lobo, but just a little update on them.
Speaking of superheroes that no one knows almost anything about, Aquaman's movie.
Yeah, Aquaman's also getting his own movie. He will have a cameo in BVS, a very brief one apparently. Maybe he had a cameo in Man of Steel. We can talk about that in a little bit.
Oh yeah.
But they've been kind of filling out the cast for that movie in Justice League, and it was reported a couple months ago that Amber Heard was in talks to play Mera, who's the love interest to Aquaman, and in an interview with ET online, Heard confirmed that she is going to play Mera in the DC EU and will debut in Justice League Part 1. And she also teased her costume, saying, quote, "It's interesting. It's like half suit of armor, half scales. It's strange. We're in the process of building it now, so it's coming along." As far as Amber Heard, I really only know her from her role in Never Back Down, which is a MMA fighting movie where she is the love interest in Florida, and so a lot of her parts in the movie is just her as a love interest and being in the movie simply to look amazing because she is insanely beautiful. So as far as that's concerned, seeing her in the movie, I'm sure it'll be great visually. Whether she can pull it off as an actress remains to be seen, I guess.
Yeah, the only two roles that I've seen her in have been just super minor ones. Seth Rogen's girlfriend in Pineapple Express, and the girl next door in Zombieland for Jesse Eisenberg's character. Yeah, and that's it. So, also in The Danish Girl, I saw a credit for that.
Yeah, she's in Danish Girl. Apparently, she's pretty good in it. So good to hear, I guess.
I mean, maybe that's what landed her the role for
it's definitely possible.
Aquaman. So I mean, it's cool to see that Aquaman's taking shape with two really great lead cast members, or at least looks that way anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen Momoa in anything.
He's in Game of Thrones,
yeah,
and he doesn't really say much other than,
which is my concern.
Yeah, he says he speaks in Dothraki, but he's huge.
I think he definitely looks the part. I think both of them look the part.
Yeah.
Whether or not they can act the part is the big question for me, which is like the whole Aquaman movie as a whole. It's kind of a hard sell. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, hopefully it's a new, unique take on Aquaman.
And they definitely need, movies like Batman v Superman and Justice League to kind of get people really interested in the character so that they'll go out and see his own movie.
Mm-hmm.
And none of those would be possible, really, if it wasn't for Man of Steel, which we're going to review right now. And since this movie came out in 2013, we're not going to do our normal, spoiler-free section and then, then go into spoilers. It's 3 years old almost, so we're going full spoilers from the get-go. If you haven't seen it, then you're obviously not really interested in it. You probably won't ever see it. It's a very divisive movie for a lot of people. So what do you think of Man of Steel?
I thought it was a solid movie overall. Despite my preconceived notions going into it, it did okay. I gave it 2.5 crumbled buildings out of 5. So, 50%. Didn't wow me, didn't hate it. But there were just moments in the movie, moments in a fantastic movie that just bring it all down. And as much as I tried to get past it, I couldn't get past it, and I had such a negative perception of it that I just didn't watch it again for 3 years until last week.
2.5. All right. I would give Man of Steel a 3.5.
No.
Which is very good on my scale. And that might sound kind of high, but I mean, really, I'm not crazy about it. It barely is getting a 3.5. It's maybe more deserves a 3. But I think Zack Snyder did a pretty good job directing it and, kind of setting up this universe, I guess. It definitely has its problems in terms of story and representation of the character, but I like Henry Cavill as Clark Kent. I don't get how people don't know that Clark Kent is Superman in this universe. It makes no sense to me. But I think the cast is really good. I thought the fighting style is really fun to watch, especially maybe not like the Zod versus Superman battle at the very end. I'm not that big a fan of, but the fight right before that where Clark is taking on like Zod's henchmen, the girl and the guy, I don't know their names, in his hometown. That is just, I get a very like Injustice Gods Among Us vibe, just because the way he kind of frames everything, and they looks like they're doing like these Mortal Kombat-esque like finishing moves, and how they, since they're in their like weaponized enhanced suits, they can kind of jump from place to place really quickly, but it looks like they're kind of like teleporting. I just really like that visually, and I think it's just a unique way of doing action. But it definitely has its problems with story and stuff.
Yeah, I didn't think the story was that bad. There was some issues with like what Zod was after, the genome of the entire Kryptonian race. I was like, well, what does that have to do with too much? I mean, obviously he wants to start his civilization over again, but it was just kind of far-fetched. Like, oh, he's gonna basically create babies like the Matrix, or how is the whole thing gonna work? Like, it didn't make sense to me. That was the plot part of it that I didn't like the most, moving forward. But I thought Snyder did a good job in the way he did the upbringing of Superman, and then had Amy Adams on the trail, kind of like following along, like these legends of a guy that is like invincible, saving lives and things like that. Was that cool?
I mean, I think she's definitely like our gateway into Superman, where we follow her, and that she kind of discovers things, and as she discovers things, Snyder gives us flashbacks to different points in his life, or when Superman's talking about certain things, like he mentions his father, and the next thing we know, we're 15 years in the past, and we're seeing Kevin Costner get swept up by a tornado. You're just like, why didn't you save him? Who cares if everybody knows who you are? Save your dad, dude. Like, come on.
It was super annoying because he just like, he gives him this, let's like,
he gives him the handout, don't do it, and then he's like, what? And then it's like, it's supposed to be like this whole like dramatic moment, because 2 minutes before that, he was like, "You're not my dad."
Yeah.
He was just throwing like a teenage, hormonal filled rage. And then Kevin Costner tells him to stop and don't come after him. And then he gets swept by the tornado and then he goes, "Dad."
And it's so dumb. It's so dumb too, because Zack Snyder picks a tornado which can lift up and throw things around. So Superman totally shouldn't go fly to save his dad when everything else is being thrown around. Like if Kevin Costner's gonna get swept up by a tornado and thrown, then Clark can totally just go get him. I was like, that's just so dumb.
Yeah.
But
well, let's start at the beginning of the movie.
Sure.
After with that crazy tangent, the movie opens on Krypton.
Mm-hmm.
We get a lot of Russell Crowe and his wife, Isla Zurer, I believe is her name.
Sounds right.
And then so Michael Shannon is Zod, and kind of you see the conflict play out. Okay, Krypton's dying. We need to save the race. I like what happens on Krypton. I think it's really interesting, but it feels like two different movies, basically. The first, 20 minutes is all Krypton, and you see kind of the struggle of, that race surviving and the power struggle between Zod and Kal-El. Is that his father, or is that Superman's name? I can't remember.
Kal-El, yeah. Kal-El, I think, is Superman's name.
Okay, well.
On Krypton.
Yeah.
That's why it's derivative of Clark.
Yeah. So anyways, it's Michael Shannon versus Russell Crowe.
Sure.
And they're kind of differing ideologies on, how they should go about saving the race. Russell Crowe just kind of wants to, okay, we're all screwed. We're all going to die. I don't care. We just need to send off the what's it called?
I've been calling it the Codex, but
yeah, I think that's what they'd call it.
All right.
The Codex. They need to send that off to save the race, including Henry Cavill's as a child, as he's the first natural birth that Krypton's had in ages, and then Zod's wants to take over Krypton and save his race by using power and weaponry and whatnot. But it just felt like Snyder wanted, I would have rather them start off the movie with, the spaceship carrying a baby Superman crashing to Earth, and that's our opening. And then if Snyder actually really wanted to do what happened to Krypton movie, just do a whole movie about it. That would have been way more interesting, and they could have fleshed out a lot of this stuff and kind of built up that relationship between Zod and Superman's dad, where that could definitely be a 2-hour movie that I would enjoy. I think the stuff on Krypton is really interesting, but it doesn't fit with the rest of the movie.
Yeah, great point. It's awesome to see all that, but it's all crammed into a super fast. Well, not super fast. It's for everything that they do. They cram it into 20 minutes. That takes up a lot of story time for Clark on Earth, which is done phenomenally. When I think if they would have had that 20 minutes, they could have made the ending better than it was. It's rushed as I felt it was.
Yeah.
Because all of that's cool. Like Russell Crowe jumps on this huge dragon bird flying around, dodging laser bullets left and right.
Yeah, I mean, and we only saw the one part of the planet, and you see hints of dinosaur-looking creatures. There could have been a really crazy story that plays out, over the course of a couple of years, where it starts off and, Krypton's fine, but there's kind of those rumblings of, okay, well, the planet's not doing so well, we should probably change things. And there's kind of internal conflict that plays out throughout the rest of the movie, and then it ends with the first 20 minutes of this movie, and and it's a prequel movie.
Were they extracting energy from the core of the Earth or from the sun? Which one was that?
when they use the World Eater or whatever it's called on Earth? Are you talking about the attack on Earth?
No, Krypton. Like the reason their planet's dying is it's because they stole energy from the sun, or they stole it from like the Earth.
I think it's because they stole it from the planet.
Yeah, the core or something like that. Okay, yeah. I thought that was like a cool idea too. Like they brought the doom on themselves, and instead of wanting to accept their fate, Zod wants to go win another planet for themselves to live on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was cool. But like you said, yeah, totally a prequel movie if they wanted it to be.
Yep. Yeah, I definitely would have liked to see that. We kind of touched on the relationship that Lois Lane plays throughout the movie is kind of, our eyes throughout the movie. Do you like Henry Cavill as Superman? Did you like his, kind of the origin story they chose to tell and how they told it?
Totally, because it's not linear. It's not linear. All right, we raised you, now go save the world. It was, oh man, I'm kind of like a freak type of a deal, and he just goes and starts doing odd jobs throughout his life, afraid of who he is. I mean, and then eventually, once he learns of basically his father's spaceship out in the Arctic, somewhere. I like that idea that his dad's actually the one that bestows upon him the whole being the ward of the planet Earth type of a thing.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that.
Yeah, and him and Henry Cavill's chemistry with Amy Adams works really well too. I thought. As the Lois Lane Clark.
I mentioned this a little earlier, but how, basically the government's entire point throughout the movie is them trying to figure out who Superman is and who his real identity is. And I, for the life of me, cannot figure out how they do not know, because even in 2013, we have facial recognition software. The Army, I'm sure at that time, had way better stuff than I'm sure we have now in 2016. They have him in a room. They have cameras on him. They can see his face. How do they not run his face through every... I know he's living off the grid or whatever, but Amy Adams has pictures of him at all of his previous jobs. So obviously they're not that hard to find.
Yeah.
I'm sure the government has those as well. So they definitely would be able to figure out that this guy is Clark Kent. I mean, I'm sure he has a driver's license. They could go against.
Exactly. When you show up at the DMV, I mean,
he wasn't wearing glasses throughout the movie. He wasn't, just until to hide his identity. It wasn't until he went to work for the Daily Planet that he started wearing glasses.
What's the Supergirl has an excuse for this? It's because no one expects it to be an ordinary person. Maybe that's so, but it's just has nobody even said, "Hey, take your glasses off. You look like Superman."
Yeah. So especially working at the Daily Planet, for crying out loud, think of how many pictures they have on newspapers of him doing different acts. I'm sure there's probably one somewhere near Clark Kent's desk.
Yeah.
Where somebody could be kind of walking over and they see it and they look at him and they're like, oh man, it's him. It can't be that hard because, this is kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but in BVS, it looks like Lex Luthor knows that Clark Kent is Superman.
Oh yeah.
So
for sure.
obviously he found it out somehow. How he can figure it out, and the Army and the world government doesn't know. That's one of the craziest things I will never understand about.
Yeah, it just has to be. I think it actually is. I think that whole Supergirl explanation is right though. It just has to be the fact that no one thinks it can be an ordinary person. You know what I mean? Since he's not wearing a mask, no one cares to look for a guy wearing a mask. You wonder who Batman is because he's got one on. You don't wonder who Superman is because he doesn't wear one. Does that make sense?
I guess. I don't know. I think that'll never make sense to me. What about, you mentioned this before I think we started recording. A lot of people have a lot of problems with the amount of destruction that takes place throughout this movie. They completely level they tear apart his hometown first off.
Yep.
And then the World Crusher, whatever that machine's called, that Zod uses on Earth.
To terraform the planet.
Yeah. Just starts leveling things. Did you have a problem with all this destruction?
I loved where it was going initially, making Superman, like, Superman's super fast. No pun intended. But you have to make it kind of a global conflict for him to, you know, actually have to deal with all this. So when they drop things in the Indian Ocean and somewhere else, is it just It's just Metropolis, I think. Yeah. I thought that was cool. But then when I realized that, they just destroyed the entire city in either the battle with Zod and with these terraformer world eaters, whatever the case may be. It was just too much. And that's when I realized, this movie isn't in the same universe as Nolan's Batman trilogy, the Dark Knight trilogy. And that's when it just went all downhill for me, because I was like, okay, so at least 1 million people are dead as a result of this, like, just ballparking it. And I got like super, I don't know, turned off by that idea. The fact that the only thing Superman was worried about throughout the entire thing was shutting down the machines and then punching the crap out of Zod, regardless of how many buildings it tears down. And it was just like, how much is too much? I mean, not to reference another genre, but Avengers did something awesome where they actually, you know, had they made sure you knew that this was all contained in one area, and the buildings that went down were 1 or 2. And then here we have the entire city of Metropolis going under.
Yeah, and I am not a total fan of, you know, the amount of destruction that goes on. However, I can give them a break for it, because you're one point, okay, like, it's Superman, and sure, his main point is to try to take down the World Eater, because that's the only way to stop it. He has to focus on that. He can't focus on going and trying to save people that are being destroyed by the World Eater.
Yeah.
If he doesn't stop the World Eater, just more and more people are going to die. So he has to take that out, and then, you know, it's the World Eater that is expanding the radius of how many people are dying. It's not, Superman can't really control that, and so once he takes it down, that all stops, and then he can't, like, it's one guy, and whereas Avengers, especially the first one, they have 5.
Sure.
And in Age of Ultron, they have 10 people trying to save one single city. So, I mean, they can't save everything. And I'm not even that big a fan of the movie, so I don't know why I'm defending it so much. But I just think there are rational reasons to get around it. And when he's fighting Zod, like, he is fighting Zod. He's not occupied with, okay, should I punch him here? Because if I do, he's gonna go into this building.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm just gonna punch him.
Yeah. Well, it's just okay. I'll give you credit there, and I'll give credit to the Batman versus Superman movie coming up, that it sounds like what happened in Metropolis is a huge deal for the entire world.
Yeah, I'm interested to see that movie.
Okay.
If they repair everything in time.
They cannot gloss over this fact. I know you see images of Batman getting really peeved off at whatever happened in Metropolis, but it only looks like one building came down, not the entire city. And that's what I was like, are they kind of trying to take a step back with the damage that they did? But
there's no way they can.
They should, but then again, I mean, it's like them admitting at the same time.
Yeah, if they do that, they're retconning the movie before.
Right.
At that point, then
but
this doesn't work.
What made me so mad was that after it's all over, Amy Adams and Superman just hug it out in the middle of this just complete crater that was downtown Metropolis, and it was like, oh, I won. Don't worry about any of this. This is all okay.
Yeah. I do think it's funny, her line at that point, because they kiss for, I think it's the first time.
Yeah.
Right there. And then she goes, you know what they say, it's all downhill after the first kiss. And I mean, for the movie in itself, it does go downhill after that kiss. Just because while I can defend kind of the rationale behind, the destruction, it goes on way too long. Like between Superman, and the versus the World Eater, that's like 20 minutes. And then Superman versus Zod's another 20. Like that last 40 minutes is just pure battle. And
it's fantastic battle. I will say that. The specific scene, I think you said you just finished watching it a little bit ago. Mm-hmm. The battle where Superman and Zod are throwing punches and they're parrying each other in like high speed motion.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. And that's one of the parts I love the most, where it's like Matrix-esque. That's right.
Yeah.
I thought that was like one of the coolest parts of the entire battle. And that's what I'm hoping to see come next week. But yeah, it did go on.
I'd argue against you.
What?
on the flying part, just because that's the one thing. Like when I was talking about the previous fight between Superman and Zod's goons, like there are those CGI moments, but throughout the entire Zod versus Superman battle, unless it's a close up of their face showing as they speak dialogue, like their faces are always hidden, and it's so they can just do the whole thing CG, and like I notice it that this is all CG. And that, I mean, there's no practical way to do this, and I understand that. But I think, like, I don't know what the highlight of that final fight is. Honestly, I just don't know.
I mean, the climax is obviously the very
well. One of the biggest problems I have with the ending fight is Zod adjusting to Earth, and because like when he captures Superman goes through that change where he has to adjust to their atmosphere, and he loses some of his powers because he is not his powers are because he is on Earth and their atmosphere. But then it's like he like starts choking, he's like spitting up blood or something. He goes like unconscious for who knows how long, an hour, 2 hours, and then when that happens to Zod just gets really dizzy, and then his laser eyes go out, and then he controls that in about 5 seconds. And then later, after when him and Superman are battling on top of a LexCorp building, he just shreds his armor, and he gives his speech about, I'm a warrior, I've been trained my whole life to hone my senses, and I'm superior, and all this stuff. And you're just like, why aren't you like, is it just is the adjustment that Superman had just because he was going from a more friendly environment that Earth has, I guess, and he's trying to adjust to a harsher atmosphere that Krypton's based on? Or I just don't understand that part of it. And so that's a complaint to me, that all of a sudden Zod goes from, okay, I can fight him because I have this suit, to all of a sudden, I don't need this suit, and I'm super powerful, and I'm just as powerful as you have, and I'm totally in control of all my powers in 2 seconds.
Oh yeah. Well, I think it actually makes more. I think it makes more sense. And man, the more we talk about this, the more I'm starting to actually think I need to raise my rating, but I thought about that too. But when you think about it, all right, let's say you're a young kid and you get dropped on a planet where all of your senses are overstimulating you, and we see that Clark has to adjust to all of his abilities here on Earth, but once he gets it down, he's good to go. So when you take him from a place that makes him feel super strong, and then you put him on Krypton, of course he probably feels weak because he's got 20 plus years of Earth power, if you will. And then you take someone who's known the normalness of Krypton, okay, and then you throw him on Earth, and he just suddenly feels super powerful because he's a soldier. He's trained, and once he figures out what's up, it almost makes more sense that way, doesn't it? Because I'm like, you're super powerful, now you're weak as a normal person, but you have to adjust to losing all of your strength, and now here's a bunch of strength. Go throw punches and take down buildings as Zod.
Yeah, I mean, that does make sense.
I would think so.
Yeah, I just don't understand. I am still confused why Zod doesn't go through more of a. I mean, he has kind of like two different moments where he's struggling to control his, basically newfound powers.
Mm-hmm.
And the one's really brief in Clark's hometown, and then he goes, and then I think his suit like gets back to working, so he's fine. And the other one is when he's in Metropolis in the final battle. So I just don't know.
Felt inconsistent.
Yeah, a little bit.
And it was quickly explained too.
It's just like it's not something that like he was kind of struggling throughout the battle. Like he struggled at one point, and then he was fine. Then he struggled again, and he went from having like headaches to I am in complete control and I know all my powers better than you do. It's like oh, like when Superman first tried to fly the very first time, he struggled. He could not do it.
Yeah.
And then Zod, like, he sheds his armor. He's like, I have complete control. I've honed my senses. I know how to fly.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, like, I mean, I understand it a little bit because like of his speech that he gives, but I would have liked to see him kind of struggle a little bit more instead of just going from just becoming like all powerful.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, okay. I think I can get behind that, definitely, but I think it did make sense in the way Snyder tried to, bring that out, and the writers tried to bring that out.
Yeah.
So, they're called World Engines, by the way.
World
I looked
Engines.
it up,
Okay.
not World Eaters. I think World Eater is the machine in Star Trek, the reboot.
You might be right about that. Yeah.
I think that's what it is. No, that's a big giant drill that they just.
Yeah. Totally different franchise.
I can't get my world destroying machines right.
Nope. What about the ending of this battle is very controversial, where he snaps the neck of Zod.
Well, it's not. I mean, it's controversial because it's not Superman's character, but Superman has killed people in the past comic books, so it's actually not out of line with the character, and that's made a huge deal of. So, if they want to carry it on, if that's a story that they revisit, the guilt that he feels after that, I'm definitely sure it's not going to be just cast aside as a moot point now.
Yeah, I agree. As long as they kind of explain it a little bit and they hint towards it in BVS that he's still struggling with this fact that he killed somebody, and as long as that's explored and he's still struggling with that and he's not kind of like, oh, I killed somebody, who cares? And then I'll be okay with it if it's like a learning point for him. But it just felt like totally out of character. But I mean, he did it because he had no choice. Like if he doesn't snap his neck and kill him, then Zod's gonna kill an innocent family of 4. Mm-hmm. So I mean, if you're either gonna get mad that he, if you are one of the people that got mad about it, you're either gonna get mad that he killed Zod, or you would I would hope get mad that he just let Zod just mow down a family.
And I think that really speaks to the tone that these DC movies are going to take. I know I'm looking forward pretty far here, but the idea that, we live in a universe where Superman does kill people. He's not just going to, take Zod to some jail that's secured away that he can just break out of from time and time and time again. So, and I don't hate that. I think it does add a point for his character. It could be the reason that maybe he's a problem in the next movie because he feels like he has to save the world because he killed one person, type of a deal.
Yeah. Your comment about Zod breaking out of a prison reminds me of something I hate about the movie. It's probably the thing I hate the most.
Oh, is that
somehow Zod's imprisonment in that capsule is tied to like Krypton survival. And so they put him in that chamber knowing that Krypton is dying. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, I'm just going to send you away off planet. And then not much longer later, the planet's destroyed and then Zod escapes. Like, okay, if you guys know Krypton's going to die and you want Zod to die, keep him on Krypton and just let him die with the rest of you.
It's weird. Well, they put him in cryogenic sleep, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so clearly they didn't want him to die, but yeah, like seriously, like why would you like?
I think they put him in there for, I can't remember what they say, but it's like 3 lifetimes or something.
Yeah.
Like it's multiple lifetimes, so they don't expect him to survive. That's the way I took it, at least.
Mm-hmm.
So that just like makes no sense to me.
Yeah, for real. It's like, all right, listen, the planet's going down, and we're gonna put you on a spaceship in the atmosphere, in the nebulous that it is, and then just say, hey, we'll all meet our own fate. It's a little bit inconsistent.
That's weird.
But
do you have any other talking points about the movie you want to get to? What do you think you've expressed? I think I've expressed all my grievances with the movie, as well as surprisingly defend a lot about it.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I feel like I'm going to update my ranking of it to a flat 3.
A flat 3?
Because now that because I don't think I've ever even talked about what I saw. Like, I mean, these are all moments getting brought up a lot recently. So in reflection, at the end of this podcast, let it be noted that Josh has a change of heart about Man of Steel. A lot of it, because this movie was 3 years ago and there was nothing locked and loaded to follow it up with to explain things away like Iron Man 3 did with Avengers and all the subsequent sequels in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I like to think that with this being the cornerstone of the new DC extended universe, it was pretty good in terms of setting up what these Justice League movies are going to be like.
Yeah, I think you said it very well right there. I think it's a very good Superman movie in and of itself. That it doesn't really set up like the future, because at the time they didn't know if they would have a future. I mean, they hoped it would, but they weren't like for certain that, hey, we're gonna do like a whole like multitude of movies. They have like 8 movies announced or something right now. So I think on that merit, it does a good job of staying on its own, telling a compelling Superman story. I mean, the script isn't terrible. Like the story's good. It's visually, it's really good. So I don't know. I'm a lot more like upbeat about this movie than I thought I was going to be.
I thought it was going to be a trash fest on it, but. And another thing too is I think I expressed this earlier, was that I'm glad that Christian Bale isn't coming back as Batman as much as I wanted them to. The more I thought about it, this movie is set in a different universe than the Dark Knight trilogy that Nolan did. This is a much more comic book oriented world, and I'm okay with it for sure.
Yep. I think that, I would not have I would like to see more of Christian Bale's Batman, but not here. Right.
It would be hard to put him into this new world and then say, hey, you actually now live in a world where you have to fight aliens, and I don't think it would work. Yeah.
But I think that's going to do it for our review. We kind of really, I think, pretty good talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And as you guys listen to this on Tuesday, hopefully you guys listen to this, the first day it comes out, you might be hearing from us again tomorrow or the next day, the night, the day that Batman v Superman debuts. You might be hearing a little preview special we're considering to do, where we kind of talk about our expectations for the movie, what we're hoping to see, break down some of the the potential plots, and kind of just give our overall impressions. It might be a little more optimistic following this podcast, possibly.
Yeah, once we get those, I'm going to digest all those trailers and points again and see if what we brought up is evident.
Yeah. But during our time away, be sure to tell us your thoughts on everything we covered by tweeting us at Friends and Film, where you'll receive updates on the podcast, movie news, and more. You can follow me personally on Twitter at Coops_Hoops.
And you can follow me, Josh, at Straley Strong on Twitter.
And if you're listening to this on YouTube, SoundCloud, or iTunes, please subscribe, like, share, and give us a thumbs up. And if you're on iTunes and you liked what you heard, please be kind, give us a 5-star review. That'd help us just get a broader reach to the audience. And as an additive incentive for you to give us a review on iTunes, whether or not you actually listen to us on iTunes, you should jump over there, subscribe, and give us a review. And if you do so and give us a nice review, take a picture of it, tweet it to us just to give us a confirmation that it actually did submit, because you have to get a certain number of reviews before it's shown publicly to iTunes. So give us a review, tweet it, send us a picture at Friends and Film on Twitter again of that review, and you will be instantly entered to win a copy of Captain America: The First Avenger, and we will hopefully be giving that out in about 3 or 4 weeks. So you'll have a couple weeks to enter, and we'll continue to promote it. So hopefully you guys are interested in it. I thought it's fitting to announce it today, since we're kind of doing the kickoff of the DC Extended Universe and, the first Man of Steel and the first Superman movie. Figured it's a good time to announce that you can win a copy of the first Captain America movie that's in the MCU, in preparation for when you should watch every Marvel movie before Captain America Civil War comes out. And that is it, I believe. I think I've plugged everything I need to for the episode. And this is a much longer episode than we've been doing normally. We're trying to keep it around an hour. But thank you for tuning in again to the Friends of Film podcast and staying with us throughout this long episode. Hope you guys enjoyed a look back on Man of Steel. If you guys maybe want us to do more reviews of older movies in preparation, let us know. And you guys should let Josh know if you want what movies you want to know. Josh, you got any last words for the audience?
No, but I love the idea of doing a retro episode.
Yeah,
that would be fantastic.
Yep, and yeah, we there's going to be those weeks where there's nothing to review in theaters, similar to this week. There might be one coming up in 2 or 3 weeks where there's nothing brand new that we're interested in seeing, or you guys are interested in listening to us talk about. So if you have suggestions, maybe you want to hear us talk about Indiana Jones or Back to the Future, the first Star Wars movie. I mean,
Legally Blonde.
Anything. Just give us suggestions, and we will put it into consideration for those dead weeks. And as always, be sure to watch some new movies before we return next week with the review of Batman v Superman. It's finally here, and we will be doing a review next Tuesday.